You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Solari. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very special treat for you because today it's the best of. We're bringing the best interviews from our guests over the course of the year. You don't want to miss it. You're going to be inspired as well as learn lessons that you can apply to your life today in living life full out. We always want to hear from you. Although we're not taking live calls during this show, feel free to reach out to us by calling 800-333-0001, 800-333-0001, and we will get back to you. Also, if you have an inspirational story that you'd like to share and be interviewed on one of our future shows, go ahead and reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Again, connect@livingfullout.com. Now let's jump into the best of show. Get ready to be inspired.
Today we're talking about loving yourself and all the ways in which we need to just release all the tragedy, the crises, the obstacles, the challenges, the things that people say, all of that negativity. Just let it go for today. Let it go and focus on you and all the great aspects of you. Now, our inspirational guest today, Katie Hill, is a perfect example of what it means to live full out, and you'll learn why through her story. She's going to be sharing with us about her journey through transgender here in terms of initially being a boy, and she transitioned into being a girl and a woman today, and just, you know, what was entailed by that, all the support she got from her family and some of the people that didn't support her along the way. So I'd like to welcome Katie Hill to the show.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Katie. So honestly, I mean it when I say that you are living full out, girl, from like literally 3-4 years old to today. You were always outspoken, it seems, about knowing that you were a girl. Even when you were a boy, you're like, listen, everybody, I'm a girl. This is not me. This is not right. Share with me. I know you grew up in a conservative family, but it's really at an early age, like 3 or 4, when you recognize, you know, this is not me. People are seeing me differently than I feel I am. Can you share with us about that?
Absolutely. So when I was about 4, an age where no one knows about sex or gender or sexuality, like you said, I knew that something was different about me. How? I can't exactly tell you. I can't articulate it. It's the same thing as me asking you or anybody else, when did you know you were a boy or when did you know you were a girl? The answer would typically just be, well, I always just knew. And I was the same way, except my body didn't agree with what I was saying. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a little boy. I tried to wrap my head around that, and it didn't bother me so much, because I had no idea of the expectations that come along with that and what my future would hold, but it just felt wrong. I remember when I was 4, my mom came into the bedroom one day after she got out of a shower. Maybe I was 3, and I wondered why my body didn't look like that, why I was so different. And I was in the bathroom one day, and I was pulling on my genitals saying, Mom, off, off, off. They're not supposed to be here. And that blew her away. This 4-year-old child who has no idea about any of this stuff, telling her that it's wrong, that my genitals are wrong. And that was the first flag that she had to give me help. Before long, I was taking medication, and I was multiple psychiatrists, but I always knew that something was different about me. And now I know the answer. Now I know that there was nothing wrong with me. I was just different.
Well, and how did your classmates, I mean, obviously this was a learning curve for your mom and the rest of your family, and we'll get more about that later, but how did your classmates, I guess, view you, or how did they connect with you? Because obviously, you were a boy growing up for a good part of your life. Did you do boy things? Did you enjoy doing girl things? Did people make fun of you? What did you wear to school? What was that like?
Right. So I was always kind of into, I guess you can consider girl things. I loved cooking. I loved pretending to cook. I loved dresses. I loved pretending and things like that. The same thing that all kids do. You know, when you're a little kid, parents are a little bit more lenient. They're allowing their kids to, it's not unusual to see a 5-year-old boy playing with dolls. It's not until they're about 7 or 8 when you really start cracking down on gender norms and expectations to say, no, you're a boy, or no, you're a girl. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to like this. But at the same time, I did like, I guess you can consider boy stuff. I liked riding on dirt bikes. I liked airplanes. I liked getting out and playing in the mud and going outside and playing with my friends and wrestling and stuff like that. I just came into my own, and I never really understood why all of these adults around me were telling me, no, you can't do this. My classmates was kind of a mixed bag. I had some that openly accepted and loved me, but most of them didn't act or didn't respond quite the way I wanted to. I was spat on, I was pushed, I was shoved downstairs. I had my stuff stolen from me. I had teachers that were making fun of me. I had parents that were pulling kids out of classrooms because I was in them, telling parents who were pulling kids out of lunch with me. My best friend, her parents told her that she should be stoned to death rather than spend time with me. And that's crazy to think that. But
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so awesome. I mean, you're so wonderful. And whether you had been the boy that you were or the girl, a woman of today, I mean, the same you has been you the whole time. Now, there was the day when you discovered transgender and you were like, oh my gosh, that's me. Can you share with me about that time?
Oh, yeah. The most emotional story of the ride. So I was 15. It was 2009 in January. And for so long, like I said, I had been to multiple psychiatrists and doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me, quote unquote wrong with me. I was diagnosed with Asperger's and autism and multiple personality disorder and schizophrenia and bipolarism, all of these things. And I was on all these kind of medications, which only made me feel more crazier. I felt like I was out of my mind, like I was broken for so long. And one day I was on the computer and I just decided to type in, I feel like a girl in a boy's body. I feel like I like boys, but I'm not gay. I feel like a woman on the inside. I look like a woman. I feel like a woman. I don't know what's going on. And sooner or later, I found a couple of articles, very few, maybe 2 or 3, that had the word in it, transgender. And it just changed my mind. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders to have a word with it. For so long, I thought I was the only person in the world that was going through this, who had these feelings. And now I knew that there was an entire community of people like me. And not only that, but there was a way to fix me. There was a way to make me feel better, to be who I've always wanted to be. It was possible. So when my mom got home, I sat her down to the computer and said, Mom, look, this is me. This is what I am, transgender. I'm not crazy. I don't need all these medicines. I'm not broken. I'm just different. And it can be fixed. It can be sorted out. This can be a normal thing. I can be normal. And she brushed it off. She said, yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever, Luke. I'm busy. We can talk about this later. And it destroyed me because I finally found a word that I identified with, a word that incorporated all the different aspects of my problems, I guess you could say. And she wasn't listening, my own mother. And it was harder. It was so hard for me to come out to her as being trans because until that point, I thought my mom hated me. I thought she wanted to hurt me. I thought she wanted to kick me out because I couldn't trust her with my feelings because I myself didn't understand them.
Which you knew was not true. And when we come back, because we have to take a commercial break, Katie, but when we come back, I want to explore further that conversation with your mom. Okay, so stay with us. Okay, hang on. And everybody, just so you know, we are on the line here, interview with Katie Hill, talking about her journey with transgender, and we'll be right back after this break. This is the Living Full Out Show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What an inspiring interview. I am so proud each week to be the host of this show. And stay with us because we're going to have more of the best of guest interviews coming up. It's all about living life full out. We'll be right back.
What if you were wearing something sexy? What if you were drinking? What if you made the first move? No matter what, sexual assault is never your fault. Support is available 24/7 through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Call 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAINN.org. That's RAINN.org. This is Christina Ricci with RAINN, reminding you it's never your fault.
Brought to you by RAINN and this station.
Not all criminals carry a gun or a knife. Some simply need to pick up the phone or ring a doorbell. In times like these, senior citizens are often the targets of con artists, hawking shady investment deals and phony charities. Be wary of strangers in your neighborhood soliciting services or asking for money. Many cons come in the way of phony home repair services. These thieves offer major home repairs at bargain prices, but they end up taking your money and never finishing the work. Don't become a victim. Be skeptical of offers that are too good to be true. Never allow anyone to force you to sign something, and never give personal information to people you don't know. Get estimates and never pay in advance. If you suspect fraud, get the contractor's license plate number and call the police immediately. If something doesn't seem right, it's probably not. Protect yourself. Visit ncpc.org to learn more. A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
I'm so glad we left that stupid party.
No joke.
Hey, baby, are you an overdue library book? Because you got fine written all over you.
Oh, barf. What about that girl with the hoop earrings?
Ridiculous. When she was dancing...
Megan, look out! Look out!
Oh, my God, Becky. Becky, are you okay?
My arm. I think it's broken.
Can you bend it?
It's already bent. In the wrong direction.
I can't believe this. I'm so sorry. I only had a few drinks. I was just buzzed.
Really? Just buzzed?
Yeah, I swear.
Well, in that case, my arm is fine. Ah, that's better.
You're really okay? You're serious, Becky?
No, genius. I'm not serious. Ow! My arm, it hurts.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
It's the time of year for giving, so let's not forget about those who have so little. Create a smile this holiday season. You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari. Today we're talking about loving yourself, and a perfect example of that is our special guest today, Katie Hill, and she's sharing with us her journey being transgender and how she went from being a boy to a woman today. And Katie, I'd like to welcome you back to the show.
Good to be back.
Thank you. Now, I know that, your mom didn't you grab onto transgender right away, but when she finally did, there was a touching moment, which we won't be able to get to all of it today, but where she allowed you to put together a list of all the things that you wanted to do. And what I'd like to kind of go into next, if we can, is part of those were the surgeries that would allow you to take those next steps. Can you share with us about what those surgeries were, what that process was? Were you scared?
Well, of course I was scared. I mean, it was a major surgery. I only had one surgery, and that was the vaginoplasty, which is the surgery, the bottom surgery, as people say, but it's basically converting the penis into a vagina. And of course I was scared. I was 18 years old, just out of high school, and I was going to this major surgery. And when I was about to have the surgery, I thought it was going to solve all my problems. In my head, I thought, I'm going to get on that gurney, they're going to wheel me into the operating room, and I'm going to come out as a woman, as a true woman, and everything will be better. I'll love myself, and everyone will love me too. And actually, when I landed, by the time I got into the operating room, I was ready to go. I was so excited. I was like, all right, let's just do this. Drug me up. I'm ready. I want this to be done with. And my fear melted away because I was so ready to be done with that old self, to be done with all the pain that I went through, to be done with the rejection, to be done with the discrimination. I thought it would all be gone. But, when I woke up the next morning, Sure, I had what I wanted. I had the physical change, but I realized that there was a lot of emotional and mental change that I had to do that I hadn't done yet. I looked in the mirror and I was happy with what I saw physically, but all that pain, all the scars, all the discrimination, everything that I have gone through was still there in my heart. And it was so heavy.
And honestly, I get that. I feel that in what you telling us this. But what was your journey? What was your abilities to let go of that? How did you let go of the emotional? How did you, in some ways, press the reset button and all of a sudden, everybody, I'm a girl? How do you make that shift?
Right. Well, it's not, of course, easy.
Yeah.
People always think that it's me trying to convince everybody else that I was a girl, but the truth is that I was always this way. I was always very feminine. Well, when I finally came out to my mom and we did the transition, it made sense to her. It made sense to my family. It made sense to my closest friends. I didn't have to convince them of anything. It just made sense to them. When they actually were exposed to it, when they saw the person I'd become, this scared little boy who was ashamed of himself, into this confident, beautiful woman who was doing all these amazing things, who was determined to succeed in life, it just clicked with them. They understood. They realized this isn't fake. This isn't something that goes away. This is a journey. This was something important to Katie and to other people like her. And you know, to get rid of all that pain, it's not gone. Pain never really truly goes away forever. Instead, I had to deal with it. I had to really sit down and think about who I am and my place in the world and where I want to go, where I see myself in 10 years. Instead of looking at myself as this failed woman or as this freak that I've thought of myself for so long, I started thinking of myself as a very intelligent person who's very ambitious, who's very artistic, who's very kind, who's very caring. I started focusing on the more positive things in my life and the more positive things of my character. And by doing that, slowly but surely, I was able to become the person that I am today. And I'm not done. I'm still very young, and I have a long ways to go before I really get through all of the things that I've gone through. And that's okay. I'm pacing myself, and I'm ready to take on that challenge.
Well, and I can imagine. I mean, it's a life. We're all on this life journey, and yours is now a whole new chapter. You know, it's you as Katie. And and one question that I'm sure quite a few of our audience members might be asking themselves is, after you made that transition, and you were Katie, you know, how did dating go for you? You know, did you tell people, men, that you were starting to date, or did you tell people I used to be a boy, or and what was that like? And if you can share with us about that.
Right. Well, from person to person, it depends on how much information you want to give out. But for me personally, I always felt like I should tell people that I was dating, who I was and what I've been through, because I don't want anybody in my life, especially an intimate partner, who can't accept that aspect of me. It happened, and it's made me the person that I am today, and I was never ashamed of it. If they wanted to, I've had guys who have punched me in the face in the middle of public before after finding out, and I've had guys who have confessed their love for me after they found out. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't want to hide that part of me from the people that I love or the people that I'm attracted to, because it's an important part of me. It's an important part of my life, and I don't want to just pretend like it didn't happen, to pretend like it's not still there.
Well, and one of the relationships that you had, which we'll just touch on briefly, was with another gentleman, Aaron, who had gone through his own, journey with being a girl, and he became a boy, a man. And was that comforting to be with somebody? I mean, you're not together now, but at the time, how was that in terms of being in that relationship with somebody who was also going through it?
Oh, it was great. Just the fact that the relationships before Aaron and after Aaron, I've only dated, besides Aaron, cisgendered heterosexual men, which means that they were born male, have always remained male, and they've always been attracted to females. And they could tell me that, when I would explain to them my dysphoria, the pain that I was feeling inside, all my bad things, the bad things that happened, they could say, I'm sorry, but none of them could say, I understand. And Aaron was the first guy who could really honestly look at me and tell me he understood my pain, and I could understand his. We transitioned together. We helped each other. Whenever we were dysphoric, whenever we were feeling down, the other knew exactly how the other one was feeling. And I think that's a big thing in a relationship that everyone wants, is complete understanding.
Mm-hmm. What a special relationship to come across and to be able to have done that together. I'm just curious, we've all heard of Caitlyn Jenner and her own journey, and you're in this community, and you are an advocate for rights and helping people to become more educated. But how has Caitlyn Jenner coming out? How does that impacted your community? In a positive way, negative way, indifferent?
Well, I definitely think, again, it's dependent on who you ask. To me, personally, I would say that it's a mixed bag. Again, Caitlyn Jenner coming out definitely put the word out there for a lot of people. It got the word spreading. People started talking about it, even if it was in a negative way. The fact that the word was out there and people were talking about it meant a lot. But, Caitlyn Jenner wasn't the first person that did that. It's important to know that there are plenty other trans people, celebrity trans people, who were doing that before Caitlyn Jenner. And, of course, a lot of people would say Caitlyn Jenner's not an accurate representation or not the best representation. And I would agree that no single trans person, not even myself, can represent the community. No one. There's no person that perfectly wraps up what it means to be trans, because everyone's experience is different. But even though I have my own personal beliefs, I think that there was some good to it. But I also think that there may be some negative bits that, a lot of people have debate about. But,
sure.
Like I said, mixed
Sure.
bag.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, everybody's journey is going to be unique to their own. And because transgender, that word, what it means, everything that you've gone through, Caitlyn Jenner's gone through, everybody before, that the changes in your body, the hormones, just all of that. What should we know as a world, as a community, about transgender and how we can make this an easier transition? There's a lot of people that are resistant to it. And then there's others who are like, understanding or want to be understanding. And since you are an advocate, what are your views on that?
Well, I understand why people have a hard time with this. It's very complicated and it's new. People go to college for 8 years plus to learn about this stuff, and even they can't get it right all the time. Even I'm wrong a lot of the time. It's very hard to also, we've lived in a dichotomous society for so long, male, female, that's it, like heterosexual, homosexual, and just within the past few years, it seems like there's a different identity for every person. There's as many identities as there are people, and that can be, really odd for people who aren't used to this, who aren't in the community. So I understand. Well, the things I always want to get across is this isn't fake. This is never going to go away. It's here now, and it's just important to understand that, it's important to understand that these people are not trying to get attention. They're not trying to be out there. They're just trying to be happy. They're just trying to find their way in the world. Because let's be honest, life can be hard. Life is hard for everybody. And being trans only makes it even harder, trying to get by the everyday hardships of bills and family and relationships, but at the same time looking at yourself in the mirror and being ashamed of what you see. And the only thing that we're trying to do is to be happy with ourselves. We're not trying to affect anybody else. And also I want people to know that if you don't get this, if you don't agree with it, that's okay. It's not my job as an advocate to force people to believe in what I believe in. My job is to give everyone the information and to say, do with it as you please. If you don't understand it, educate yourself. If you don't want to understand it, that's okay. But just don't try to push negative beliefs onto other people. Just know that it's not fake. It's real. These people are just trying to be happy. It's okay if you don't get it right away. Educate yourself. It's okay to make mistakes. Just educate yourself. Be ready.
Education is the word I keep hearing. Yeah, education.
I
hear that.
Everybody who's listening, you know somebody who's trans. I guarantee it. Whether you know it or not, you do know somebody who's probably intersex or transgendered or anywhere in between. And it's important to understand how to respectfully deal with those people in your life.
Katie, you have brought up so many good points today, and we have to wrap this up, unfortunately. I could talk to you for hours, but I want to thank you very much for being on the show. And everybody, this was Katie Hill, and thank you so much, Katie. Hope you have a great day, and keep loving yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Bye.
Thank you. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. So that was Katie Hill.
What a great interview. I tell you, I am so inspired each week by the guests and so proud to be the host of this show. Stay tuned because when we come back, we'll have more of the best of guest interviews. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a
taxi?
233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Don't you wish that getting your child to eat right, move more, and spend less time in front of a screen could be as easy as pushing a button? It might not be that simple, but you do have more power than you know. And you can maximize that power with proven strategies, tips, and tools from the National Institutes of Health's We Can, or Ways to Enhance Children's Activity and Nutrition program. We Can offers all kinds of resources, including fun recipes and activities the family can do together to show you the way to live a healthier lifestyle. We're not saying it's easy. We are saying that it can be done. Take the first step today. Call 1-866-359-3226 for a free We Can Parents Handbook. And be sure to visit the We Can website at wecan.nhlbi.nih.gov for free information too. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
Hit ignition.
And then
nothing. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite. Look out! Look out! And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over, until Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Today we're talking about receiving feedback. And sometimes we need feedback. We need support. We need attention. We need to be taken care of, especially in times of grief. And I want to start in with our inspirational guest today, Austin Eubanks. He was a student at the Columbine School when there was the shootings back in April 20th, 1999. And I say that to you with sadness because that was such a tough day for everybody in our country to watch what unfolded. So to have Austin here to share with us his story about that day, as well as years of addiction afterwards, is one that we all want to listen in very closely because there's a lot of good lessons to learn. So I'd like to welcome Austin to the show.
Hey, Nancy, how are you?
Hi, Austin. Thank you for being here. Obviously it's just a tough day to talk about, and I admire your courage for being on the show today and in memory of all your friends that were lost. But can you take us back to that day and kind of share with us, before the shootings had even started, just kind of what you knew and then what unfolded?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. Obviously, a very traumatic day. It was a beautiful April day in Colorado. The weather had started to warm up, and I remember I was I met my best friend in the hallway, who was Corey DePuter, and we walked into the library to meet some friends for lunch. And I remember we were sitting at a table with 3 other guys and trying to decide whether or not we wanted to go play golf or go fishing after school. And Corey was actually the first person at the table to say, "It sounds like gunshots." And I remember all of us just kind of writing it off. We were at school. It was a safe place, and nobody could ever imagine that it actually was a gunshot. So we assumed it was just construction or something of that regard. And it was a few minutes after he said that Patty Nielsen ran in the front of the library screaming for everybody to get under the tables. And I remember standing up, actually. Corey and I both stood up, and we were kind of looking around, figuring out what to do, and none of it made sense. Is this a movie? Is something being filmed? Is this a prank? What is going on? And so we started to walk around the library just trying to figure out what to do next, and continued to hear the gunshots. And a lot of people will recall back on the 911 tape that was played so frequently of Patty Nielsen, and she screams on that tape, "Everybody get under the tables right now." And she was actually looking directly at Corey and I because we were the last 2 standing in the library. And so we chose to get under a table and do as we were told, and got under a table with 2 students who we didn't know, and waited. And I remember Corey was kind of the voice, telling everybody to be calm, that the police were going to be there. And it wasn't but 10 minutes after that Corey was dead. They came into the library and continued to shoot from section to section, and Corey was actually the last person who died in the shooting that day. And I was shot as well. And life changed after that, for lack of a better term. So.
Yeah, it's just a wild. You're right. I mean, that should be a safe place, and we have to, unfortunately, in this day and age today, with so many other shootings that have occurred, kind of be ready, be on the defensive and offensive. Just prepared for whatever could be. And so, we're learning from you, unfortunately, on how that happened. And I'm sorry for Corey's loss, of course. And I remember at one time you and I talked, and one of the reasons why you think you were saved was you did play dead that day. You just kind of fell to the ground and hoped that they didn't come back to you.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really know what to do in a situation like that, and you just, it was really all I knew to do. And so, yeah, they after they fired under our table, immediately knew, unfortunately, that Corey was dead, just because of the fashion in which he was hit. I was shot as well in my left knee and my right hand, and I actually didn't even know that I was shot in my left knee until I tried to stand up, because there was so much adrenaline that everything was moving in slow motion. But I remember just laying there and playing dead, and it wasn't it was probably 2 or 3 minutes after Corey was killed that they left the library, and I started to hear commotion, of people moving around, and peeked out from under the table, and everybody was getting out to run out the back door, and I followed and did the same.
Well, I'm glad you did that. I'm so glad you did that. Obviously, that day unfolded. We all watched it on TV. And what was the level of care that you got in the days following from your school, from your parents?
Yeah, so at that time, I'm sure most of the listeners remember Columbine. Stuff like that didn't happen. I mean, it wasn't like it is today, and it's really unfortunate, what's transpired. But nobody really knew exactly what to do, but everybody wanted to help. So I remember help being readily accessible, but it not being very organized. And so when I left the library that day, it was, I was taken to a triage area. And ultimately taken to a hospital. And within, 45 minutes to an hour of being shot, I was on a variety of different medications. I was on a medication that was given for, obviously, the pain, plus something for shock. I remember, because I was in shock, and then from that point forward, I was really medicated, and that was the pivotal moment for me where I learned to manage emotional pain with substances, regardless of whether or not those were prescription or eventually turned to illicit substances as well. But up until that point, I had never drank a beer, never smoked weed. I was 17 years old, and addiction just wasn't a thing. It wasn't prevalent in my family. It wasn't prevalent in my friend group. And so with all of the help that was accessible to me, therapists and counselors and psychiatrists, they couldn't really reach me therapeutically because I was medicated. And so, I was taking large quantities of pain pills, and eventually turned to anti-anxiety medication, benzodiazepines as well. So that combination effectively just turned me into a robot, and I wasn't able to go through the stages of grief that somebody would who was not medicated.
Well, I know there's, so much more to this beginning of your addiction here. And so we're going to take a short break and come back, Austin, so if you can just kind of stay with us. But so much
Absolutely.
More in his story, so many lessons to take in. Everybody, this is the Living Full Out Show with Austin Eubanks. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
I'm Alec Baldwin. Like any parent, I'm concerned about children's health. Many kids don't eat as they should and are at risk for long-term health problems like diabetes and heart disease. But here's good news. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and other low-fat vegetarian foods can protect our kids and keep the rest of the family healthy too. For a free booklet, call the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine at 1-877-685-KIDS or visit www.kidsgethealthy.org.
What would you do if you had to choose between the buffalo and the giraffes? Between a flower or an elephant? What would you choose? What if you had to decide between a 100-year-old tree and a 1,000,000-year-old beach? Between drinking clean water or breathing clean air? Would you make the right choice? Would there be a right choice? Now there's a way to help. Not just one, but all these things. EarthShare, the world's leading environmental groups working together. It's one choice we can all live with.
This ad sponsored by Ad Council and EarthShare.
Hi, I can't come to the phone right now because I'm abusing my children. Not just verbally, but physically. I'll get back to you.
If only child abuse was this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call Child Help at 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. We've helped millions of people help millions of children. All calls are anonymous and confidential, so call 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. Child Help. Trust your instincts. Brought to you by Child Help and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us. This is the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about receiving feedback, and we're going to be joining our inspirational guest for today, Austin Eubanks, again. He was a student when the Columbine shootings occurred on April 20th, 1999, and in our last segment, he did share with us about that day and the tragedy of losing his best friend, Corey. But now he's sharing with us about the addiction that started to develop the days, months, years afterwards. So I'd like to welcome Austin back to the show.
Hi, thanks.
Hi, Austin. Hi. So,
Hi.
We're talking today about receiving feedback, and people were trying to reach out to you, those therapists, those counselors, your family, your parents, everybody. But, the drugs were starting to kind of take over. They had kind of took you to a different place. And I remember you telling me that you were homeschooled after the shootings. You had that ability. And, do you think that helped you? Did that hurt you? I know you started to run with a different crowd. It just seemed like you were out of your element.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the intent was very well meant. So all of the injured survivors of the shooting were allowed an option to continue their studies at Columbine High School, but have a private tutor bring the work to your house. And so she came for 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. And so my total commitment to having a structured school environment my senior year was 6 total hours a week. And that really afforded me the freedom to start acting out in my addiction. Like you said, I fell into a friend group that really supported that. It was life in the fast lane. I started to rebel from my parents. I started staying out all night, not obeying curfew, and it really added fuel to the fire, having that low accountability. From there, symptoms just continued to worsen until I was at a point where I was basically pushing everybody in my life away who truly wanted the best for me. And everybody who supported my destructive behaviors was now my best friend. Those are the people that I wanted around me.
And what was the drug of choice? I mean, what were you taking during this time, or what were all the things that you were taking?
Yeah, so pretty consistent for me throughout my life. It was opiates. So opiate medication, pain medication. With that, I would also abuse Adderall, and that was something that was pretty consistent. And then Xanax, so benzodiazepines, and those were really the 3 substances that controlled my life day in and day out. Now, with that, I started to drink in excess. I started to abuse street drugs as well. So there's a lot of things that went along with those behaviors for me. But at the core of it, it was really prescription addiction. And, I learned very early on with the story that I just shared, how to manipulate doctors ultimately to be able to get what I wanted. And it took me a very, very long time to really break down that false core belief that I need these substances in order to function. Like I said, I had very, very little awareness of what addiction was. And so from my perspective at that age, in my late teens and early 20s, all I knew was that I was initially prescribed substances by somebody who had a phenomenal amount of education to make me feel better, and they were very much working. So I had no idea the effect that opiate medication had on emotional pain, and that it was more effective on emotional pain than it was for physical pain. However, you're not supposed to use it for that. So, it took me...
And with the opiates kind of masking over everything, I mean, you're still trying to digest everything, and I'm sure there's times that you missed Corey. I'm sure that you were depressed. I mean, did the opiates make you feel more sad, or did they make you feel like, I got this handled, I'm over it, everybody get on with your lives? What was your attitude?
Well, I think it's a short-term solution. So it's definitely not a fix, but for the short period of time where, oh my God, I'm being overcome with this emotion, I'm going to take this pill and I'm going to fix it. So it's definitely, it worked for a short-term solution. However, the long-term, it was incredibly detrimental, because not only did I become physically dependent upon these substances, I was never fully able to process that grief. And so, it was very much later on in my attempts at recovery, before I was actually going through the stages of grief that I should have been processing at age 17 and age 18. I think, it's definitely not a solution, but it is a short-term fix for sure.
Well, and you mentioned several attempts at, therapy and recovery and all of that. What was it that finally got through to you?
Gosh, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it was, but it was multiple attempts at recovery. I went to residential treatment on several occasions, and throughout my 20s, my behavior was just so erratic and impulsive that I trouble in my relationships, trouble really across, holding down a job, all aspects of my life. And with that, there was always an element of criminal conduct. I was acquiring drugs via illegal methods. I was oftentimes stealing to be able to acquire these substances. And so I was on probation off and on through a lot of my 20s. And I remember 29 years old. It was April 2nd, 2011. I had gone to a baseball game. It was opening day for the Rockies, downtown Denver. And I woke up in jail the next morning, and I had absolutely no recollection of how I got there. At that point, I was estranged from my wife. I had 2 young sons, and I remember opening my eyes at age 29 and saying to myself, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to die. I'm going to either die or I'm going to end up making a decision that I can't come back from, that ends me in prison for the rest of my life. And so at that point, I had a level of willingness that I never had before in my life. And so I remember going to treatment that time, and I sat down in my therapist's office and I said, just tell me how to walk, tell me how to talk, and I will do it. I'm done fighting this fight. I have no ability to manage my life. And if I don't figure this out, I'm going to die. I will literally do whatever it takes. If you tell me to stand on my head for 3 hours a day, then that's what I'm going to do until I figure this out. And I'm happy to report that my long-term sobriety date is April 2nd, 2011. So that morning that I woke up in jail and opened my eyes, I never went back to using alcohol or drugs. So.
Well, congratulations to that. That is big, because, life stresses pop up and it's tempting to want to have a drink or to do that. So to have that stamina and just the confidence is awesome, Austin. That's great.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious though, part of living full out is being able to enjoy life, to laugh, to love, to feel free that anything is possible. But how did you allow yourself to go to a better place, the place where you are today, with so much anger about Columbine, losing Corey, all the time that was lost to these drugs? How do you square that circle for yourself in recovery?
Well, I think that for me, I have so much gratitude around where my life is at today. Not only in my own personal recovery, but being able to give back to others who are seeking recovery, because of what I've been able to do for myself is so incredibly rewarding that I think, you go through a process. And so definitely, as I described, at age 29, I was still going through the stages of grief and dealing with the survivor's guilt and the anger that I had towards the perpetrators. And I was processing all of that. But eventually you get to a place with it where it's okay, and that doesn't mean that I've forgiven. I'm a person who believes that some things are just unforgivable, and I will never get to a point where I will say, that I have forgiven the perpetrators. However, I'm in a place with it where I can use the experiences that I had that adversely affected me for so many years to help others. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm sharing my story. I'm talking about trauma in relation to addiction. And I'm hopeful that other people might catch a spark of hope from what I'm sharing and seek help for themselves, because it's out there and it's possible.
With people who are in addiction, there's always going to be those people who are in their family, or their wife, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, you name it, who is beside them, who maybe taunts, I'm going to leave. Maybe they do leave, then they come back. Maybe they don't know what to do. What should the friends and families, the supporters of the person in addiction, do? Because at some point, it really comes down to the addict needing to make their own change. But you can make threats all you want, but what do you do?
That's a great question, and I wish that there was a one-size-fits-all answer for that, but there's really not, and it's always going to be contingent upon the individual, and it's going to be contingent upon the family dynamic, and oftentimes the friend dynamic too. So I think for a lot of people, no matter what, you have to have a catalyst for change. Nobody will change anything in their life unless something promotes that change. You want to change because either something is bad or because you want to make something better. And so that has to be there. You have to have that inspiration. Nobody can change for others. But I think initially, very early on, families can come together and be supportive and oftentimes help create that catalyst for a person. Now, if that's been attempted on a few occasions and the person still isn't responding to that, I think there comes a time in everybody's life where the people who are supportive really need to detach. And that's what can allow the addicted individual to finally realize, hey, look, everybody in my life who ever loved me and cared about me has set this boundary saying that we can no longer be around you because of how destructive your behaviors are. And that takes them to a new rock bottom. And oftentimes that's what creates the bounce for people. So it's
the infamous rock bottom. Yes, we all know. We've all heard of that. Right. Austin, you know what? Your words of encouragement are perfect, and they're spot on with receiving feedback today of the show we have. We have to wrap up the interview now, but you are a miracle. I'm so glad that day that you were saved, because you're doing great work today. So I want to thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It was a pleasure being here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Austin. Have a good day. Thank you.
You as well.
And that was Austin Eubanks. Again, a powerful story. You definitely want to go back and hear that again. Lots of lessons there to be taken in. This is the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari.
What an amazing hour. I have been so touched by these interviews, and I hope you have as well. We want to thank you for listening each week, and to my entire production team, wow, you guys are my heroes. You do so much behind the scenes to pull this all together. Know that we are all dedicated to your success, to you passionately going after your dreams. We'll be here each week to support you, but know that if you want to listen to this show or any of our episodes again, just go to livingfullout.com, click on the radio show tab, and all the episodes will be waiting there for you. And if you have any questions, or even if you have a story that you'd like to share with our Living Full Out community, reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Again, connect@livingfullout.com. We look forward to seeing you next week. Here's to you living your life full out.